Hello, everyone, and welcome back into another episode of Conversations with Chris and Cameron. It's episode 19, so we've been going at it for about probably close to 5 months straight. Can you believe that, Cameron?
Man, we're rolling. It's football season now, so we're getting to put a lot of content out. So it's been fun to get all these episodes out. And we're like you said, we're rolling.
Yeah, and like I said in our previous podcast, that we're trying to get out 2 episodes a week, 30-minute episodes, usually 30 minutes, talking about UK football's previous matchup, which is Eastern Michigan. And of course, they don't play this week. They play again next week against South Carolina. But this week, I think we're going to do two separate podcasts this week with Eastern Michigan talking about the game from this past Saturday. And then, of course, talking about Kentucky basketball. We'll talk maybe about the field of 68 and another podcast tonight, later this week or tonight. But let's get into it. Of course, Kentucky played against Eastern Michigan this past Saturday, and overall, UK looked great. I was not too impressed with Kentucky's defense against Eastern Michigan. How were you feeling about Kentucky overall?
I felt really good. Like you said, the defense was the big takeaway of like the shocking outcome. We knew the offense was going to put up points no matter what, but the defense was definitely the big problem. And I think Brad White said that this was like the most disappointing outcome for his defense, the most disappointed he's felt in a long time. So for
Mhm.
good reason. I mean, allowing 23 points to a team that we
Yeah.
should not be allowing double digits to,
Mhm.
it isn't a good look. But I think it's kind of just a blimp, and I think we'll be back and better going forward. But yeah, I think it was a overall great game. I enjoyed it, but the
Yeah.
defense was kind of the bad part.
Yeah, and like you said, up limp. I mean, that's what Mitch Barnhart said about this past year's team whenever Kentucky football went 4-8, that it was a 1 year blimp. So hopefully that's the case. UK can get back to their winning ways, getting to 6 to 7 to 8 wins this upcoming year. But their schedule is tough, of course. We talked about that before the season started. I predicted 5-7. You had what, 7-5, was it?
Yep, 7-5.
7-5. But yeah, we're going to just be mainly talking about that. UK, of course, won 48 to 23 against Eastern Michigan on Saturday. And the first half, I mean, it wasn't great. I mean, they allowed, I think, Eastern Michigan to score like 10 points in the final 2 minutes of the first half. And of course, Kentucky still had the lead, but it wasn't pretty with that first half with their defense. They were up 28 to 16 going into halftime, and then our defense just looked insane in the second half. They only allowed one touchdown. That happened in the fourth quarter, and of course, UK went on to win 48 to 23. But I was very happy that the defense looked completely different. It was like a complete 180 from the first half.
Yeah, I think it was more of like a show up and we know like we'll be able to just stop these guys no matter what they throw at us. I think it was more like that where not necessarily that the guys weren't prepared, but like they probably were just more of a mindset of like we could probably sleepwalk and hold this team to 20.
Yeah.
And that is kind of true to a certain point, but we did sleepwalk for the first half and gave up 16. So it was an ugly first half. But like you said, the defense locked in big time in the second half, and that was kind of the big takeaway. The touchdown late was a little disappointing. Wish we could have had like a second half
Shutout.
shutout.
Second
But
half.
yeah, their offense was able to roll a little bit. So yeah, it was tough to see in the first half, but the second half was much better.
Yeah, and before we start to talk about Cutter Boley with his first start of the 2025 season, of course, he started against Louisville last year, but I thought UK's defense was going to steamroll Eastern Michigan after we started out the game with that pick with Devin Rayner. I'm like, man, our defense already got a pick, led us to eventually score a touchdown, but I'm thinking to myself, like, UK's defense is going to be unstoppable. I mean, that's what happened against Ole Miss. They had two immediate like interceptions, of course, with Austin Simmons. So I thought our defense was just going to run through this team and limit them to 10 points where I had, whenever we were predicting the score prediction. I was actually right with how much UK scored. I said 48 points and they scored 48 points. So I was happy about that, but sad I was wrong about Eastern Michigan scoring way more than 10 points for sure
Yeah, I didn't even realize you had got the points right on though. That is impressive.
for UK.
Especially when you get that high. Yeah, yeah, for UK. But yeah, the 23, I just don't think anybody's expecting that. I don't think anybody was expecting them to come in and put up a ton of points and
Yeah.
have their offense rolling like it did in the first half. But
Yeah, the final 2 minutes for sure of the first half, it was
yeah, yeah, that was the really bad part.
yeah. But now let's start to talk about Cutter Boley. Of course, He had his first start for the 2025 year, went 12 for 21, 240 passing yards and two touchdowns. I wish he could have had a couple more passing touchdowns, but of course, Seth McGowan was doing everything. He was insane for UK, but overall, I was pretty happy with Cutter Boley, and I wouldn't mind seeing him start against South Carolina. Of course, I know it's an away game, but I would love to see what he can do. Of course, his first time he ever got in last year was against Florida, and he threw a pick immediately once he got into that Florida game last year. But I think he will be better against South Carolina because he'll have more confidence, compared to getting thrown into the game against Florida. Of course, he was playing against the second and third strings last year because, UK was getting blown out at that time against Florida. But I do think he'll have more confidence and will be better if he gets to start against South Carolina.
Yeah, no doubt. I do think he's definitely the guy that we got to start whenever we're going into that South Carolina game. And like you said, it was a tough environment last year, but now this is a team that this is the South Carolina team that if you look and you watch their game after Lenoris went out, their
Yeah.
offense was very pedestrian. So I could see this game being a very, very low scoring game. And I think Cutter's got plenty to get us over the edge and be able to win that game. Now, the interesting thing I think would be if Cutter doesn't necessarily look as good as he did in this one at times. And if he doesn't play
Mhm.
great at South Carolina, then I think it gets a little iffy
Yeah.
on what you end up doing at that point if Calzada's back healthy. And
Mhm.
all of that would be, pretty difficult. So
Yeah.
I do think Cutter's the guy, though, going forward for sure. 2 weeks from now at South Carolina, we'll have to see how we do off a bye week because we know Stoops teams haven't done great off
Yeah.
of byes in the past.
They haven't, but you would think they would do very well because they are well rested. They have so much time to look at game film against the other opponent like South Carolina. So you would think they would be great, but sadly they're not. And I know Shane Beamer was saying earlier this week, I haven't kept up with it, but of course UK doesn't play South Carolina this week, but he expects that Lenore's Sellers will play this Saturday, so he'll definitely be back, hopefully, or he'll definitely be back probably before the UK football game in 2 weeks. He has a concussion, I believe, so it'll be interesting to see what Sellers can do against Kentucky's defense because he ate them alive last year in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm not saying he is Cam Newton, but he is like that type of guy where he just takes games over physically. He's just a really good quarterback overall, and he's been really good for them. So yeah, if he's back and fully healthy at that point, then obviously we'll have to kind of reevaluate things. But hopefully this defense is able to slow him down a lot more than we did last year because even last year Lenoris went out in the game, and then Robbie Ashford came in and still killed us. So. I think it's Luke Doty as their backup now, so it's not going to be Robbie Ashford again. But um, I do want to see what Cutter can do against an SEC defense like that. Because Eastern Michigan, we talked about it last week. We were going to put up points no matter
Yeah.
what, no matter who was back there slinging it. And he
Oh,
goes
wow.
out and has a pretty good game. So, yeah, Bo Allen could have gone out there and put up 300. I mean, it would have been one of us could have gone out there and put up serviceable numbers. So,
Maybe
uh,
I don't have that arm strength.
yeah. Yeah, but Cutter, he was exciting, and yeah, I'm excited for him going forward too.
Yeah, and I think for Cutter as well, I mean, I just felt like against Eastern Michigan, he was showing comfort in the pocket, but also able to make throws that, even though they weren't complete, he was still getting the ball, right into the receiver's hands. And, like, of course, some of them were tough catches, and I don't blame the receiver for not catching it because, like, yes, Cutter Boley threw the ball where it needed to go. It wasn't just because the defender was also dripped all over the wide receiver as well.
Yeah, yeah, Cutter was definitely making some very impressive throws. The one that just like continues to play over and over in my mind is the one. What was it? It was like a corner shot, like inside the five. Was it Hardley that ended up catching it towards the sideline?
It might have been Harley. I know what play you're talking about. I can't think of
Yeah.
who
Yeah, I can't remember full. I'm pretty sure it was Harley Gilmore, but that throw is the one that just keeps replaying in my mind where I was like, all right, well, Cutter Boley's winning Heisman next year. Like it's just like that throw is the one where it's like he's got it. Like he's just
Yeah.
that type of dude. He can just deal it. So yeah, like you said, he was making all the throws necessary. Like if you are just a stat sheet watcher, you could look at that and be like, all right, well, maybe he wasn't. But if you actually watch the game, watch the tape, he was absolutely balling.
He definitely was, and then he had seven completions of 20 plus yards, including four over 30 yards, which is very impressive. And I was very impressed with all the explosive plays that UK was able to do against Eastern Michigan, whether it be passing or running, because what is considered an explosive play is 10 plus yards rushing or 20 plus yard throw. So anything past 20 yards for a completion is considered an explosive play. 10 plus yards running is considered an explosive play as well.
Yeah, we had a lot of explosive plays for sure. That was the fun part of it, where if you did go to the game, you could get excited for big shots, big plays downfield. And a lot of it was the tight end play. I'm sure you have that in your notes to talk about. The tight
Yeah.
ends were incredible in this one, and those were a big part of the reasons that we had the explosive plays so much. They just, whether it was schematically trying to get them the ball, or they were just wide open, or just the fact that Cutter has that chemistry with them, being roommates with him. But he was able to just get the ball to them so much, and it was a great time getting to watch the tight ends ball out.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be talking about the tight ends for sure. I want to talk a little bit more about the quarterback room and then get into the running back room and then finally into the tight ends for sure. But for me, it was honestly amazing that Mark Stoops did not say right after the game that, Cutter Boley was going to be the starter going forward. I think he's doing that just because, how much money probably UK spent on NIL for Zach Calzada and to also give Calzada a chance to still play in the SEC because he's been always wanting to get back into the SEC after he played 2 seasons at Incarnate Word. But I was surprised that he wasn't like, hey, Cutter Boley's going to be the starter going into the South Carolina game, so he's going to give it some time still. I did like how Calzada was coaching Boley in between the first and second quarter. Like, I was like, wow, a veteran quarterback is helping out, Cutter Boley, who is only a redshirt freshman right now, to make better reads, better plays while he's on the field. So I really did enjoy that as well.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite picture that came from the game. Like just the snapshot of Cutter just sitting there and Calzada leaning over, because like if you want to argue that Calzada is maybe not the best quarterback in the world, he at least has a ton of knowledge. Like he is very, very seasoned. He has tons of experience. So I love that he's over there sharing wisdom with them, even though going through some adversity himself. But that was my favorite takeaway. Like you said, him just sitting there coaching him up a little bit on the sideline. That was awesome to see.
Yeah, it's definitely very awesome to see. And, with Cutter Boley's performance against Eastern Michigan, I mean, how do you think it will shape the quarterback conversation going forward?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I was kind of shocked that he didn't just go ahead and say that, Cutter is the guy going forward. But I think that does kind of hint at that, where I think Cutter is the guy. Like the whole conversation about it will be a little bit there'll be some drama, and we'll figure out kind of what happens. But I think you are building for your future. You're also, I mean, for Stoops, you're trying to save your job a little bit. And if you
Yeah.
go out there and you show that Cutter can be a guy that'll ball out, then that'll probably help you a little bit. So I think Cutter's going to be the guy going forward. I think we've seen what Calzada can do. And I liked Calzada, but I think Cutter's ceiling is just much, much higher,
Yeah.
and he could just extend this team's ceiling overall.
Yeah, and I mean, what Cutter Boley was doing for UK, of course, it was against Eastern Michigan. It was, not Ole Miss, but what he was doing against Eastern Michigan was impressive nonetheless. And I'm going to be excited to see what he can do, and I expect him to be the quarterback of the future. Of course, we got other young quarterbacks in the quarterback room. It'll be interesting to see if any of them will transfer. Of course, you'll have, as long as Matt Ponatowski doesn't go to the MLB draft, you'll have him coming in next year as a freshman. So it'll be interesting to see, what UK will do with the quarterback room going forward because you can see a couple of them transfer because they want to get playing time elsewhere. I mean, the quarterback room is the hardest room I feel like to keep happy because you've got 4 or 5 quarterbacks in there that all want to be the starter and only one can usually start.
Yeah, no doubt. And they all believe that they should be starting. I
Yeah,
know there's probably some that are a realist and they kind of can notice right away that they're not the guy, and that there's other guys that are more deserving. But like you said, there will probably be some that transfer, and it's understandably so because, like you said, there's one guy. You can't just go. The old saying is like, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So
yeah,
like you've got to end up transferring and doing what's best for you. And we've seen that out of the recent years. Gavin Wimsatt is now at Jacksonville State, and then Gavin Wimsatt or Like
Destin,
just tons of these other guys just have moved on
Destin
to
Wade.
go elsewhere to be able to play. Yeah, Destin Wade's one of them, but there's
Yeah,
been just a ton. Or
yeah,
even guys like Gunnar Hoke back in the day just ends up going to Ohio State because I think he's going with the mindset if I'm going to sit, I might as well just sit where I can get me a ring, but when it's said and done, or that was his dream school and stuff. So
yeah,
there's some scenarios like that where some of
yeah.
these guys will probably transfer, but yeah, I think Cutter is the guy for this season and
The
going forward into next year.
Yeah, and then of course, right now you've got both Stone Sanders and Brennan Ward as both freshmen, so you could see one or potentially two transferring out. Of course, you'll lose two quarterbacks after this year with Zach Calzada and Bo Allen. So right now, if you count Matt Ponatowski, as long as he signs the dotted line, you'll have four quarterbacks in the room next year with Cutter Boley, Stone Sanders, Brennan Ward, and then Matt Ponatowski. So, I mean, a four quarterback room isn't bad, but you also want to probably have a little bit more experience because you really don't have any next year.
Yeah, maybe they go get just another like maybe it's a JUCO transfer or just
Yeah.
a lower D1 guy to kind of bring some veteran presence into that room. But I know there's a lot of people that are very high on Stone. Like they were out of high school and they still are to this point. So I don't think there's a whole I think he's the one that I could see definitely transferring because of Matt Ponatoski. Like he could go somewhere and he still has the very high potential, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of schools that recruited him.
Mhm.
So I could see him probably transferring. But like you said, we're gonna need some more guys into that room. Like I think most coaches, their ideal number is six in a quarterback room.
Mhm.
Just because you can get some that are more of just a leader point where they're just coaches in the room. And then there's
Like,
some that'll actually be what's that?
like Bo Allen.
Yeah, like Bo Allen, where they understand
Mhm.
what it takes to be able to do this. So I do think they'll probably try to get a couple transfers, and
Mhm.
I'm not manifesting that Stone's going to transfer because I would love to keep him here, but he's definitely the one that I could see.
Yeah, and he hasn't, from what I've been told, he hasn't been too impressive in practice, which is sad to see. But hopefully Stone Sanders does figure it out if it's at UK or elsewhere. But enough talking about the quarterback play. Let's talk about real quick the running back room, mainly just Seth McGowan. He's been crushing it this year for Kentucky. He's already had 6 touchdowns this year. He got 3 touchdowns against Eastern Michigan. He had 104 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on 18 carries against Eastern Michigan. So basically, a sixth of the time he was scoring if he got the ball against Eastern Michigan, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, he absolutely balled out. He's just one of those dudes where it's like it's impressive that we got him, and obviously
Yeah.
it's just not great circumstances on why he ended up here, but the fact that we have him, we are blessed. So as Kentucky fans. I'm sure not a whole lot of not many people in the conference are necessarily looking at Kentucky and being a little jealous of what they've got, but we have gone from Benny to Chris to Ray, and then I mean last year wasn't great, but now we have Seth McGowan who looks very much the part. We've been very spoiled for
Yeah.
running backs big time, and now we get two of them because I'm still very high on Dante Dowdell. Jason Patterson looked good. Looks like this running back room is going to be perfectly fine going forward.
Yeah, and of course Dante Dow was injured this past game, so you didn't really get to see him. So hopefully he can get healthy, get ready for the South Carolina game because you want everybody healthy coming out of the bye weekend. It just stinks that injuries definitely do happen, and hopefully every player will be healthy going to that South Carolina game because we'll need everybody. It's SEC play, it's a tough conference, and you need everybody to be healthy to get a win.
Yeah, gonna have to rally the troops for sure. That's
Yeah.
gonna be the big takeaway, like going into this bye week. Get everybody healthy, get all your guys ready to
Mhm.
roll for SEC play.
Yeah, and then just talking a little bit more about Seth McGowan for the season, he has 275 rushing yards. He's fifth in the SEC currently with that. And then also he leads the SEC in rushing touchdowns with 6, which is great to hear. I mean, he got robbed of a touchdown against Toledo, so he could have easily had another touchdown in that game. Could easily be at 7 touchdowns already this year, but I'm glad that he's leading the SEC and he can continue to do that because that'll be insane if he can continue to get 2 touchdowns a game.
Yeah, no doubt. It is cool. I don't know what the page is, but I keep seeing them post stuff on Twitter about like just the each week where the stats are or whatever for the conference. And yeah, it's so crazy just to see Seth McGowan fifth in yards and then first in touchdowns. Like it's so crazy just to see Kentucky's done it again, where they just have another running back that is just elite And Seth McGowan's just a blast. He plays with so much passion. Like we said in one episode, he runs like he hates the ground, but it works. So
Yeah.
he's super special. So I'm excited for him.
He is definitely very special. I would love to see though our, quarterbacks get more passing touchdowns though. Like if we could average, two rushing touchdowns and then three passing touchdowns like a game, like scoring 35 points a game, I would love that. But sadly, that hasn't happened in a long time under Mark Stoops' offense. I can't remember, what's the most we've scored a game under him, but I feel like the highest I could see it be like 30 points a game. I feel like under Mark Stoops, like at the peak with this offense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. This is definitely going to be an offense that keeps it low scoring and tries to win games in
Yeah.
their style and force teams to play our brand for sure.
Yeah. So now that leads to the tight end room, and basically Josh Kattus and Willie Rodriguez, they've been stepping up the whole season. And of course, I didn't know this, but good old Cutter Boley is roommates with both Willie Rodriguez and Josh Kattus. And I'm like, wow, the two tight ends plus the quarterback are all living together, the same place. And they were both joking about how, people were paying everybody's rent during that game.
Yeah, no doubt. They were definitely uh, well connected for sure. I did hear before the game about Willie, but I didn't know until like after the game that also Josh Kattus was with them. So it
Yeah.
was super cool. Just feed your roommates. I think everybody went back to the dorm pretty happy that night. But
Mhm.
yeah, those two were the big takeaways. And then also Henry Boyer almost had the touchdown. I don't remember what got it taken away, but
Yeah.
we almost had three tight ends score a touchdown in this game. It was like I tweeted it out the Shaq and Kobe meme that always just makes me laugh. But I was like, Vince Merrill left. Now this is Josh Kattis and Willie Rodriguez. Like
Yeah.
it was super cool to see those two just ball out. And
Yeah.
yeah, they deserve it. They've stuck around. Obviously, Willie's only been here another like one extra year, but like Josh Kattis has been here a few years. He deserves this.
Yeah.
He's just been special for us this year.
Yeah. And then for them both, they combined for five receptions, 89 yards, and two touchdowns against Eastern Michigan, which is impressive. I'm like, why are we passing the ball to the tight ends? Of course, the saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Or did I get the saying right? I don't know. My bad if I did or did
Yeah,
not.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So yeah, I mean it's insane to think about, how we weren't previously using our tight ends, but now we are under Derek Shea, and I'm thinking to myself, yes, this is great for the tight ends room, but I would love to see the wide receivers get more, throws at them and be able to complete them as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Like the one towards the end of the game, the big Jamori play, that one was like a lot of fun. It was like, oh yeah, Jamori, like, yeah, that's a lot of fun. But like then you realize he had one catch. Him, Kendrick Law, Hardly Gilmore, those are the guys that I just kind of want to get the ball, get them in space somehow. Like
Yeah.
I know they're trying to do that behind the line of scrimmage with Kendrick Law, but like
Mhm.
I don't know what they're going to need to do necessarily for Hardley and Jamori, but to get them the ball would be very, very important. But I did see the thing, Josh Kattis and Willie Rodriguez, I think, are both on track to be uh number one and number two in the Stoops era for receiving yards in a year. Like that's a crazy stat
Yeah.
with its when it's two on the same team. But
And
Vince Merrill leaves, this happens.
yeah, it is definitely very crazy. And I think what's stood out to me was Mark Stoops yesterday. He always has his radio shows on Monday where he talks to Tom Leach and everything. Well, yesterday they actually had Josh Kattis on there just for a little bit, maybe like 10 minutes. But what stood out to me was the bull don't care saying. Basically, Derek Shea, the tight ends coach, has that saying, and the backstory is basically this like number one bull rider in Texas, like he won and basically he didn't care because he's like the bull doesn't care if I win this week because, I could get a different bull next week and lose, it doesn't matter about that. And you could tell Josh Caddis got a little emotional talking about that. I don't know if you saw that or not with the radio segment, but Josh Kattus was definitely close to crying just because he says like Derek Shea has been such a great mentor this year. He really cares about the game and like he cries sometimes as well. Like Shea will cry sometimes while talking to the tight ends room.
Yeah, I heard about that. I didn't listen to all of it, but I did hear bits and pieces from it. Like just yeah, the fact that there's a lot of emotion from Coach Shea that like he just feels extremely blessed to have this opportunity and go to war with these guys. But I do love the quote though, "Bull don't care." So yeah, this tight end room is just special, man. They are very very thankful for their coach. The coach is very thankful for them. Like just the Coach Shea being the tight end coach has been made all the difference. So super blessed to have him leading these guys, and they obviously love him very much.
Yeah, and just to say something a little bit more about the story, basically the guy in Texas, he was like the Joe Montana bull riding. He won the big championship, and the next day he packed up his bags, didn't celebrate, moved elsewhere, and was going to go on, continue to do what he was doing. And basically they asked him why the guy would do that. He said, "The bull don't care what I did last week. I think we take," and then Josh Kattus was basically saying, "We take that really personally in the tight end room. It's like, okay, you have a good day at camp, but the bull's going to try to buck you off the next week." So, just talking about that with Derek Shea and, what Kattus had to say about that quote stood out to
Yeah,
me.
I do love that quote. That's going to be the one that kind of just sticks with me all year with the Beast of No Nations. Like those are going to be the
Yeah.
big two for me. I do love that quote.
Yeah, and just briefly talking a little bit more about the offense, we'll get into the defense, but overall it was a balanced attack against Eastern Michigan. They had 252 rushing yards and also 240 passing yards, so they passed, if I'm doing my math right, in total 492 yards of total offense for Kentucky football, which is great to hear. You never hear about that because we only probably get about 300 total offensive yards if that during a game.
Yeah, no doubt. It was definitely a fun offensive game having 240 passing yards. That definitely for Kentucky fans that doesn't happen every week. But we were very very like efficient with the plays. Like you said, there was a ton of big shots downfield. So the offense was clicking for sure, having that many yards total.
hmm And then talking about two other things with the offense, Kentucky, they were perfect once they got into the red zone. They went 7 for 7 with scoring drives. They had 6 touchdowns, of course, one field goal, but going 6 for 7 with scoring 6 touchdowns and only getting one field goal, that's pretty impressive to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, being able to score when you get there is such an important thing. So, yeah, that was really cool to see the guys kind of take command once they are pushing it down the field like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing though that we need to talk about though for the offense, they finally had their first passing touchdown of the season in the Eastern Michigan game. That's crazy to think about. It took 3 whole games to finally get a passing touchdown to happen.
Yeah, now let's just get it every single game. Let's do it now. But yeah, it is crazy. It took 3 games, but um, now we got the monkey off our back. Let's go ahead, just keep passing all year and be able to score more passing touchdowns for sure.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And, hopefully they can get 2 passing touchdowns a game. Of course, we all want at least 1 passing touchdowns and then, get 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns. But, I feel like the minimum goal should be, at least 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns a game. Like score 28 points. I feel like I know it's hard to do that in the SEC with tough defensive opponents, but try to at least score 28 points in my honest opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. That was kind of the one before the Ole Miss game that I think both you and I had said like score 28 and you can maybe beat this Ole Miss team. And then so I think that's kind of going to be the thing for the year. If you can score 4 touchdowns or just get around 27, 28, somewhere around there,
Yeah.
you'll be able to win a lot of games because your defense is going to do enough to keep you in them. Outside of that, that I think if you score that much, that'll be a recipe to winning.
Yeah, and now we're going to just briefly talk about the defense. And of course, we're not going to talk about South Carolina because it's the bye week, so everybody can get rested up for that. But, just talking about the defensive concerns, Brad White's defense, they allow 461 total yards and also multiple explosive plays. And that's not good because you're playing against Eastern Michigan. You should not be allowing them to have 461 total yards of offense at max. Usually I probably gave them maybe like 250 at max, but to give up 461 yards, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's a big part of why Brad White said that he was extremely disappointed. I think the big highlight was McQueese Humphrey Grace. He was kind of the big standout in my opinion. He had the one sack, but he also just was able to apply a ton of pressure to the quarterback. throughout the game. So yeah, he was the big highlight for me. I'm excited for him going forward. Tons of guys wanted him in the portal, and he was like kind of our prized possession in the portal. So having him back out here playing, he played in the Ole Miss game, right? That was his first game.
Who was McQueester?
Uh,
Or
yeah.
no, he played the very first game of the year. He
Oh, I
got
thought he missed the first.
no, he played it, but then got banged up, and that's why it was
Oh,
questionable.
that's why he missed. Okay, because
Yeah.
I remember just not seeing him out there. Okay, I couldn't remember if he had gotten hurt in that game
Yeah, he
or what.
got
But
hurt
yeah,
the first game. He was questionable to return. He didn't return, and then of course he played against Ole Miss, but he probably wasn't the healthiest.
yeah, no doubt. But yeah, I think he's going to be big all year for us. He's going to be able to help us defensively and kind of rush these quarterbacks that we'll be playing because we play a lot of pretty good quarterbacks this year.
We do, for sure. And then I'm also going to be excited to get DJ Waller back. Like he missed the Ole Miss game, and who knows, maybe if he plays against Ole Miss, UK gets the win. And you could say that about Cutter Boley if he was playing the quarterback position the whole game, maybe UK wins. But I'll be definitely happy to get DJ Waller back going into the South Carolina game. He's expected to play. He was, of course, out against Eastern Michigan just to get back to being fully 100%. But I'll be excited to get him back because we need, our star players on the defensive side to be back as well.
Yeah, we got to keep the defense healthy for sure because that's going to be the thing that we lean on all year, big time throughout the SEC play. So yeah, need to get Waller back, and then yeah, just keep these guys. Make maybe stray away from anything that we ended up doing this game because this was obviously not a good performance. But I do trust the defense and that they'll be really, really good all year.
And usually Kentucky's defense is always good, usually all year. The only exception you could really have was that 2023 season where it just felt like either one game our offense was completely insane, and then one game our defense was completely insane and our offense was terrible. Like the 2023 season was like the only exception where it didn't feel like both our offense and defense both clicked at the same time.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that kind of stands out. But yeah, hopefully they'll be, really, really good all year and be consistent like they have been in the past under Brad White.
Yeah, and like I said, just excited to see what UK defense can do. Hopefully, Alex Safari, Devin Rayner can continue to improve, continue to be great players. I mean, Ty Bryant, he had his breakout game against Ole Miss. I was hoping he could get a couple of interceptions against Eastern Michigan. Sadly, that didn't happen, but I'm excited to see what UK's defense can do, and hopefully, UK's offense can continue to improve each week. And Bush Hamden has said that he feels like the offense has improved from each week from week one to, week three of the season.
Yeah, and then from this point, the offense will definitely start to open up a lot more where we're going to be not really hiding anything. We're trying to win every single game in SEC play, and we haven't showed everything fully. So I'm excited to see what the offense they will do. But yeah, the defense is definitely going to have to be
Mhm.
really, really good throughout this entire season.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that wraps up our podcast. We're expected to have a guest onto our podcast later this week, so that'll drop, and it'll be a former Kentucky basketball player, somebody from my parents' day and age, so they'll definitely recognize who it is. The younger audience might not know who he is, but as long as they don't bail, we'll have another guest on to our podcast this week. And of course, later this week, we'll be talking some Kentucky basketball stuff as well.
Yeah, the guests tomorrow, if the younger ones don't know that's their parents' fault because you should know who this man is for sure. And if you don't, make sure to check it out. Take notes from it because this is an absolute legend of
Yeah,
the program.
absolute legend. Hopefully, he doesn't bail, but I don't think he will because, the older folks, they don't bail. The younger folks do, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
But do you have anything else you want to say on the podcast?
I don't think so. Good win. A lot of points. It was fun offensively, but defense gotta lock in for sure.
Sounds good, and we appreciate you all watching and listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But we'll have some Kentucky basketball news later this week. But thanks again, everybody. This is Chris Beesmore and
And Cameron Waddle.
signing out. Peace out, everybody.